Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for...
It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hope you're having a great Friday. I am. I've already made $50 today. It's pretty great. I got into work like an hour or so ago. I had to pull some of the audio from Colts training camp yesterday, so came in a little early. Stopped by my boss's office as I normally do, and he just got to talking all this nonsense about the Florida Gators and how they were going to win 10 games. So we bet $50 on it. No way Florida wins 10 games this year. For context, Florida has to play Georgia, Texas, and Florida State. That's 3 losses right there. So my Friday off to a fantastic start. Okay, don't feel bad if your friends want to give you their money. Okay, so just a little life lesson. Now, I want to talk about Colts training camp. Okay, because that is probably what we're going to be talking about a whole bunch, especially while Caitlin Clark isn't around to be discussed. So, I wouldn't call it my worst fear. My greatest fear with the Indianapolis Colts has come to fruition. Shane Steichen said yesterday that he wasn't going to limit Anthony Richardson's running. Okay, now Anthony Richardson is one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't think you can argue against that. Okay, people have raved all off season. People raved, 2 years ago during draft time. They raved about the athletic prowess that Anthony Richardson has. And look, you can't deny it. The dude's huge. Okay, he's ginormous. He's fast. He's got a really strong arm, and all the other things that we like for quarterbacks to have, not that they necessarily need. And it's to a point where I would argue that Anthony Richardson is the second best athlete at the quarterback position in the NFL, only behind Lamar Jackson. Now, that's high praise, but when you look at his athletic ability, I believe that is high praise that he deserves. Now, it's nice having an athletic quarterback. All right, it is. Okay, like when the rush got home back in the day on players like Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, the play was over. You were done. Okay, but the NFL has pivoted, evolved to these more athletic quarterbacks that can escape pressure and scramble if they need to. Okay, that is the positive side of having athletic quarterbacks. A play looks like it's over, and then you look up and they squirt out of the pocket. They're out on the edge. They can run, or they can throw and hit somebody downfield, right? It is a real advantage to have a quarterback that can move, and there's a lot of positives that come with it. The negative side, though, is that these more athletic quarterbacks can escape pressure and scramble if they need to. Okay, it's truly a double-edged sword. Right, there's a lot of positives. You can generate a lot of big plays when you get your quarterback out on the edge. But the negative side is that it leads to players like Anthony Richardson getting hurt. And Joe Flacco's cool. I like Joe Flacco. I don't really mind him. But look, if Joe Flacco ends up being the primary starter for the Colts this year, Colts aren't going to win very many games. They definitely aren't going to win the division, and they probably won't make the playoffs. Okay, it is. And just looking at the NFL as a whole, especially the Ravens, who, obviously have a very dynamic quarterback in Lamar Jackson, I think one of the more difficult jobs of play callers in the modern NFL is finding this balance of when to run their athletic quarterbacks and when to try and keep them from running. Okay, that's, I think, has been one of the impressive evolutions of Lamar Jackson. Right, year 1, year 2, year 3, he comes in the league. He's scrambling, running around, making dudes miss, finding, guys open downfield off of broken plays. It was impressive. It was a lot of fun to watch. But as Lamar Jackson has gotten older, you'll notice that he sticks in the pocket a lot. Okay, he doesn't run unless he needs to anymore. And that was kind of the evolution that I wanted to see from Anthony Richardson. And, this idea of balancing when to run versus when to keep a quarterback in the pocket, I thought this was going to be something that Shane Steichen put a lot of thought into this offseason after Anthony Richardson missed so much of the year due to injuries, right? So these, press conferences come out, and I'm excited because I think Shane Steichen's smart. I think he's one of the better coaches in the NFL already. And I'm like, he's going to come to the podium. I know they're going to ask him about this, and he's going to say something smart. And he didn't. It appears to me as if Shane Steichen put no thought whatsoever into limiting AR's running ability.
Well, I think it's exciting because the playbook is open to everything. You got a quarterback that can do everything. He can throw it from the pocket. He can get out of the pocket. He can run the football. And you got Jonathan Taylor, who's one of the best backs in the league. And to have both those guys in the backfield is going to be critical for our success. People ask this too a lot. It's just like, hey, how are you going to limit the run game? And I kind of think like, shoot, are you going to limit Steph Curry from, shooting three-pointers? Well, that's one of Anthony's strengths, right? So we're not going to, get away from that. That's what he does well. So
that was Shane Steichen talking about just the run game and potentially, or not even potentially, he also talked about the idea of limiting Anthony Richardson and in terms of him running the ball. And I can't get behind this. Also, comparing Anthony Richardson's running ability to Stephen Curry's shooting ability, that's a bit rich for me. Okay, I don't think that Anthony Richardson is ever going to hands down be the best running quarterback we've ever seen. Maybe he will. I don't know. But either way, Stephen Curry's ability to shoot isn't potentially going to ruin his career the way that Anthony Richardson's running ability could. Okay, like he's been hurt literally every year of his football career, going back to his time at Florida. Okay, the guy can't stay healthy. He can't stay on the field, which doesn't make sense because bigger athletes tend to be healthier, right? Like when we worry about guys getting hurt, it's like Kyler Murray, kind of worried about him because he's, the size of a seventh grader. With Anthony Richardson, it's like, oh, this guy's big. He should be fine. But no, he's not fine. He gets hurt all the time. And part of it is because he puts his body on the line. And here's the cool thing about professional athletes. They're smart. They know what's going on. And I was hoping, because you knew that they were going to ask Anthony Richardson a similar style question. It's like, I was kind of hoping he'd be like, I don't want to run as much, like I've gotten hurt a lot in my career. Yeah, that's not what he said. Okay, the alarming part of all of this is that Anthony Richardson agrees with Shane Steichen on how it's important for him to be able to run the ball.
My leg's always been one of my superpowers, so trying to take that away from me, I don't think that's a good thing for this offense. It's just more so me, playing a little bit more smarter and learning how to take care of myself and my teammates, and and knowing when to make the right play and knowing when to try to get an extra few yards. So, don't take my legs away, but just be more smart.
That was Anthony Richardson talking about how it's important to not take his legs away. I disagree. Okay, I would rather them take away your legs than take you away from the starting quarterback position all season. That's just me, though. And I also find it interesting that he calls his ability to run his, quote, superpower. That's interesting to me because most superheroes have powers that make them better. Not our quarterback here in Indianapolis. His superpower makes him a liability health-wise. Okay? Look, I'm going to continue to echo the same thoughts that I've had on Anthony Richardson running all offseason. Okay? He should only run via a designed run in the red zone. Okay? Between the 20s, have him drop back, have him throw it. If you want to run the ball, turn around and hand it off to Jonathan Taylor. Okay? And it's like, well, Jonathan, why in the red zone? First, like the field shrinks, right? Because you just don't have enough depth to really push the ball down the field. And so, safeties are closer, which means they have a 10-yard head start on running as opposed to a 20-yard head start. So impact tends to be a little bit less. But look, running the ball in the red zone's hard. Okay? And they're right in the idea that Anthony Richardson is a gifted runner of the football. And you can't just completely remove that away from him. Okay? So let him do it in the red zone where impacts tend to be not as harsh. And the other thing is it's a numbers advantage. Okay? Like having a quarterback that can really run the ball in the red zone is a major advantage that teams have. Okay, because you have an extra blocker with the running back. Right? So like take advantage in that area of the field, but between the 20s, let Jonathan Taylor run it. Okay, Chris Ballard gave Jonathan Taylor a nice little raise last year. Okay, like let him earn that, please. And let Anthony Richardson use his arm. Okay, that's what quarterbacks that stick around the league for a long time do. Okay, they win games and they move the ball with their arm, not their legs. Okay, Josh Allen is a physically imposing quarterback with a high upside of athleticism. The Bills win games because Josh Allen can throw for 350 yards in an outing if he needs to. Okay, the Ravens became a legitimate Super Bowl threat when Lamar Jackson's ability to throw the ball improved, not when he started to run for more yards. Okay, now I understand that from time to time, Anthony Richardson is going to have to scramble, to pick up a first down or to keep a play alive. Like, that's obviously fine, right? But if the situation doesn't call for it, I want him to stay in the pocket. Okay, I don't want him, running quarterback power at, his own 34-yard line. That just seems unnecessary to me when you have a guy in the backfield like Jonathan Taylor, okay, who's a little more accustomed to taking those NFL-styled hits. And also, I think we saw it last year. If Jonathan Taylor gets hurt, not a big deal. Okay, Zach Moss was a great backup. Okay, he was. And so, I've done this running back spiel before, so I won't bore it with you again, but running back, way more replaceable of a position than quarterback. It just is, right? So when it comes to being between the 20s, like, let's give Jonathan Taylor the ball, please, right? Because the CVS receipt of injuries from Anthony Richardson's entire career should be plenty reason enough for him to not run unless he needs to, okay? And where does he need to run? He needs to run in the red zone, right? Because in that area of the field, he'll really be able to elevate the offense with his ability to move around. So he should. Between the 20s, though, there's no need for these design quarterback runs. Okay, there just isn't. Hand it off to Jonathan Taylor and let Anthony Richardson air it out with his arm, because that's where he needs to get better at anyway. He needs reps throwing the football. That's what he needs. So, Shane Steichen, I know you're listening. Please do not run Anthony Richardson too much this year. I would like to see him play for an entire season. Now, there's been a lot of predictions around how Anthony Richardson is going to perform this year. I've got Jared Dubin. I believe it's pronounced Dubin. It might be Dubin of CBS Sports. He's set to join me at 11 o'clock. He actually wrote an article, or a piece of an article, saying why he expects for Anthony Richardson to exceed expectations. So we're going to find out what are those expectations, all those things that should be coming up at 11 o'clock. And, as I was perusing the internet, finding, more stories and things to read, Will Brinson of CBS Sports, I thought perfectly described what Anthony Richardson is. It was so perfect. I read it. I was like, why didn't I think of this? So while some people are projecting a leap and expecting for him to exceed expectations, Will Brinson, smart guy, he gave me just a nice breath of fresh air when I came across his article on CBSSports.com. So Will Brinson was doing a pretty normal preseason, pre-NFL season thing on quarterbacks, okay? And, we're going to put this guy in this tier, this guy goes in this tier, and, he names all the tiers, a pretty basic idea of just sports writing. And he put Anthony Richardson in the tier labeled, quote, intrigue with a question mark, end quote. I think that is the perfect description of Anthony Richardson to a point where I'm going to steal it. So shout out Will Brinson, okay? That is the perfect way to describe Anthony Richardson, because there is a lot of intrigue with Anthony Richardson. There's a lot of upside. I think everyone sees that. That's been blatantly obvious this offseason with the way that people have gone on and on and on about the tools that he has. There has been a major emphasis on that this offseason. And look, everyone who brings up Anthony Richardson's athletic prowess is right. Okay? Dude has plenty of tools. He has size. He's got a big arm. He's fast, right? He's just an incredible athlete. He has everything that teams want in a quarterback now. The thing is, there is an overemphasis on these tools. Okay, there's no substance to point to when it comes to Anthony Richardson and projecting a leap or projecting for him to exceed expectations. Okay, notice that when people talk about CJ Stroud, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, whoever, they don't mention the tools. They don't, even though all three of them have a pretty nice bag of tools in their arsenal. Okay, that toolbox is deep. But instead, they talk about what they've actually done. With Stroud, it's like he had, a top 10 quarterback season last year. He threw for over, I don't know his number, so I'm just going to make these up. He threw for over 4,000 yards, and he threw this many touchdowns. And, he did all this with Nico Horner as his best receiver. Now he has Stephon Diggs, so he could be even better. That's what you hear about CJ Stroud. There's substance behind the take of CJ Stroud's going to have a good year this year. When it comes to Patrick Mahomes, it's like we've seen this guy produce year in and year out. I think he's going to win the MVP. And then you can just point to all the great things that he's done. With Josh Allen, it's the same thing. It's like, oh, this guy is incredible. He's the second best quarterback in the league because I've seen him in the NFL do this, and this. Okay, the conversation around these guys, most of them, is about what they've actually done. There is substance to back up the tools that they have. There aren't any question marks because we've seen them perform at the NFL level and show that they know how to use their tools. With Anthony Richardson, yes, the tools are there. Won't push back on that idea at all. He's got every tool that you could possibly want when it comes to playing quarterback. But there are a ton of questions. Can he stay healthy? Can he be more accurate? I saw a video of him throwing this morning, and it was brutal. It was so bad. I was like, that's terrible looking. Okay, so can he be more accurate? Can he consistently read a defense? We only saw him play for 12 quarters last year, and he only completed 59% of his passes. Does he know when to slide? I think that's an extremely fair question when it comes to him because of the history of injuries that he's had. The list continues on. There are a lot of question marks around Anthony Richardson this year, but there's also a lot of intrigue with the tools that he possesses. So from now on, whenever I describe Anthony Richardson on this show, at least to start the season, he will be described as a quarterback with intrigue, but a lot of question marks because that is currently where he's at in his career. Now, I don't do this very often, but I'm going to point out something where I was right. Okay, I like being right. You like being right. Let's just be honest. You do. So I'm going to point that out when we come back here in a few minutes. Chris Ballard also opening up his big fat mouth. I'm going to get into that as well when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Unadulterated sports talk with unfiltered takes. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
The real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Tickets. Head over to YouTube, subscribe to the Indy Sports Ticket YouTube channel, join the live stream there, okay, where you can comment all sorts of crazy things. Whatever you want, really. There's no moderators there. It's nice. I like hearing comments from you. So you can also watch the stream on Twitter. Maybe you don't want to watch on YouTube for some reason. That's cool. You can still send me direct messages. Just text the phone line. That's right. We have a text line now, 317-228-1430. That is the text line. So if you want to be part of the show, text 228 or 317-228-1430. Now, look, I'm not a big toot my horn kind of guy, but I just want it to be known really quickly that Adonai Mitchell, second round pick out of Texas this year, started with the ones yesterday in 7-on-7, where you only throw the football. Now, I've said this before. I'm going to continue to say it. I'll say it probably for the rest of my career because I believe that this is so true. Teams will tell you what they think of players. Okay? If the Colts thought that Alec Pierce was going to become a great player at some point, they wouldn't have drafted A.D. Mitchell. The Colts did not draft A.D. Mitchell with the intent of him not playing this year. Okay? Also, with Alec Pierce, they would have figured out a way to throw him the ball more than 65 times last year. Okay, A.D. Mitchell started with the ones yesterday in 7-on-7. It wasn't Alec Pierce, who later got reps with the ones in 11-on-11. He did score a touchdown, but from everything that I read, it seems like they ran the ball a lot with him in, which is what you do a little more in 11-on-11s whenever you're going live during practice. Okay, A.D. Mitchell starting with the ones first, though, speaks to what's going to happen. The Colts are going to give him every opportunity to win the starting job. And if he's the player that everyone thinks that he is, then he's going to take it, I think, relatively quickly. Okay, to start camp, though, it's not surprising to see them give Alec Pierce an opportunity to play with the ones. He is only going into his third year. Okay, so maybe he got better in the offseason. Maybe he's figured some things out. I don't know. As camp goes on, we're going to find out. But what I truly think is going to happen is that as camp progresses, we are slowly going to start seeing Alec Pierce's reps with the ones go to A.D. Mitchell. Okay, they wouldn't have drafted A.D. Mitchell in the second round if they didn't think he was going to be able to play this year. Okay, speaking of playing this year, Jonathan Taylor's back. And I'm excited. You're excited. I think he's going to relieve a lot of the pressure off of Anthony Richardson. Okay, having a dependable run game is one of the nicest things a young quarterback can have. That's not groundbreaking information, but it does need to be mentioned whenever we discuss Jonathan Taylor and how important he is to this team, right? And there are, specific certainties in life: death, taxes, Anthony Richardson getting hurt, and Chris Ballard raising the expectations for players unnecessarily. Chris Ballard is completely incapable of keeping his mouth shut. And that is for the detriment of this team, and not just for the detriment of his team, but also for his job security. Listen to what he had to say yesterday about Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor will have a big year. That's where I'll stop. He'll have a big year. Yeah, he'll have a big year.
Jonathan Taylor's going to have a big year, guys. No substance behind that, but I don't know what big year means. Does that mean he's going to rush for 1,000 yards? Does that mean he's going to play? He's going to be the offensive player of the year again? I don't know. But apparently, Jonathan Taylor's going to have a big year. But here's my question. If he has a big year, then does that mean that they're not going to put the ball in Anthony Richardson's hands as much? Like if they expect for Jonathan Taylor to have a big year, does that mean that they're going to rely on him to carry the offense and not the second year 12-quarter stud Anthony Richardson? Okay, I'm trolling a little bit with that last question. Either way, though, like how can we expect for Jonathan Taylor to have a big year this year? Seriously, it's an honest question. I know that he was great 3 years ago. Okay, I know he was AP Offensive Player of the Year 3 years ago, and people love him for that, and they, sing his praises for something that happened just such a long time ago, right? Because 3 years, that's, we're 2 full seasons away from that. Okay, he's gotten hurt these last 2 years. Okay, a lot of his success is dependent on an aging offensive line. Okay, it is. And how can we expect for Jonathan Taylor to have a great year when apparently the center, Ryan Kelly, isn't good enough to earn another contract? Seriously. How can we expect for Jonathan Taylor to have a big year if the center isn't that good and this offensive line just continues to age? Okay? And I guarantee you that if Jonathan Taylor doesn't have a big year, they will undoubtedly point to Ryan Kelly if they don't re-sign him as part of why. Okay? They are. Seriously, this is just more talking nonsense from Chris Ballard. It just is, man. He just needs to be quiet. Just let your players go play. Okay, that's all that we need them to do. We just need you to be quiet and not say anything dumb. Seriously, that's all that we need from you, Chris Ballard. Just fade back into the background and say nothing noteworthy. Yesterday was day 1 of camp, and the Colts already did the thing that I didn't want them to do. I believe I talked about this on Monday or Tuesday, but I just wanted for the Colts to have a quiet training camp. And it's pretty evident through day 1 that's not going to happen. That's impossible. They have to talk. It's just they have to for whatever reason. Okay, between Chris Ballard saying that Jonathan Taylor's going to have a big year and Shane Steichen saying that he's going to continue to run Anthony Richardson, they're already first page news. They already are. Okay, First Take, The Herd, First Things First, all these other shows, Get Up, whatever, national programming of your choices. All of these outlets are going to discuss one of, if not both of those things. Just be boring. Seriously, boring's good. I like boring. Okay? Boring is consistent. And that's what I think we want from this Colts team. We just want them to be consistently good. Okay, loud. That's not what you want. Okay, the Patriots were boring for a long time, and they won a lot of Super Bowls because of it. Tom Brady, pretty boring. Okay, and he won 7 Super Bowls. Come on now, just be boring. Just be capable of sitting there quietly and just focusing on winning. Okay, that's all that we're asking for over here. Okay, that's it. Now, speaking of focusing on winning, praise the Lord for Deforest Buckner. Okay, while Chris Ballard is raising the standards for Jonathan Taylor and Shane Steichen's telling us indirectly that Anthony Richardson is going to get hurt again this year, the adult in the room, the veteran on this defensive line, Deforest Buckner, stepped up to the podium and said something that actually made some sense.
Yeah, I guess at this point, more legacy, I guess, I mean, I've made a lot of money in my career. Yeah, really just, the playoff, getting the playoffs and, having a shot at getting the ring. I came so close once before. I mean, I feel like we have the guys in the room, the coaching staff, I feel like we have the team to do it, you know what I mean? And we gotta go out there and execute. And yeah, that's really what I'm chasing.
That was Colts defensive lineman Deforest Buckner actually making some sense. Someone on the Indianapolis Colts talked about winning. That's just the best. That brings a smile to my face. It really does. He wants to win a Super Bowl. I've been here 3 years, and this is the first time I have heard somebody affiliated with the Indianapolis Colts seriously discuss winning a Super Bowl. Like, he made a serious statement how he wants to win a Super Bowl this year, and he thinks they have the coaching staff, and he thinks he has the guys and all those things, which you have to say the second part of that. But still, I appreciate it. The only other Super Bowl conversation I heard coming out of the Colts organization was Chris Ballard talking about his hair. Seriously, it wasn't even about winning a Super Bowl. It was about Chris Ballard. Come on now. Thank you, Deforest Buckner. I appreciate it. And look, this is the answer that he should have given. Okay, this is the only thing in his career that he hasn't accomplished. Okay, he said it in his, in his statement there. He's made a lot of money, and he has. He's paid very handsomely. Okay, he's made all pro teams. He's made the Pro Bowl 2 out of the last 3 years during his time here in Indianapolis. He wants to win, clearly, and he plays like it. Okay, he's been a consistent force in the middle for the Colts these last 3 years, and before that, he was one of the better defensive tackles in the league playing for the 49ers. He just needs other guys to pull their weight, right? Instead of players like Michael Pittman Jr. trying to earn respect. He needs players like Michael Pittman Jr. to have the goal of winning. It's like, hey, Michael Pittman Jr., if you want respect, go win a Super Bowl. How about that? I suggest that if you would like to be respected a little bit more. Okay? In order for Buckner to win this Super Bowl that's eluded him throughout his long career, he needs Anthony Richardson to stay healthy. Especially because he isn't getting that ring unless that guy stays healthy. Defensively, it's nice to know that there's a player out there that demands greatness, right? Because you have to be great in order to win a Super Bowl, right? And you need guys like DeForest Buckner in a locker room who keep their teammates in line, right? And just from what I know, which isn't a ton, about DeForest Buckner, he seems like he is the leader of that defense, especially that defensive front. And because of that, I'd be willing to bet that he's going to demand the best out of his defensive line teammates because he's chasing a Super Bowl, not more respect like Michael Pittman Jr. Okay, I like where DeForest Buckner's head is at. Hopefully, everyone else follows suit at some point. Okay, because if everybody's working toward a different goal, that is trouble. Okay, that's trouble. Right, listening to Tom Brady talk about the teams that he won Super Bowls with, if you listen to him, it's apparent. Everybody in that building is working towards the same thing. And it's all about winning a Super Bowl. None of them talk about earning respect like Michael Pittman Jr. does. It's ridiculous. And, there's one other thing that I really want to see from the Colts, okay? I get it. I'm not going to get to sit back and listen to them be boring. That's not going to happen. Hopefully I can see this other thing, though, because I think it's vital to the Colts' success this season. I'm going to tell you what that is when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions.
More winners, more often. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? The real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket, where we do have more winners more often. My gambling guy, Zach Gray, at ZG the Grapevine on Twitter, joining me here in about an hour at 11:40. Before that, though, coming up here in 20 minutes, Jared Dubin, not too sure how to pronounce it. He's joining me here in about 20 minutes. We're going to talk Anthony Richardson. He was recently part of an article that explained that Anthony Richardson is going to exceed expectations this year. So we're going to figure out what those expectations are. So moving now into the Colts and this thing that I think that they need. The Colts need to get in a fight. If the Colts don't have at least one fight at practice, I think that's a bad sign. I do. Okay, the Colts need some nasty. They need some physicality. They need some swagger. They need some, you're not going to push me around type of juice in the building. And I got to be honest, I don't know if they have that. I don't think they are nasty. I don't think they have any of them. You know, the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the 49ers were all nasty last year. Especially the Ravens, man. Like those linebackers, they got at you. Okay, those defensive backs on the back end, man, they were physical. Their offense was physical. The Chiefs, same way. Okay, I know that we talk a lot about Mahomes and Travis Kelce and the way that those guys conduct themselves. But that team's got some nasty. Okay, when Pacheco's running downhill, he's running physically. That defense with Chris Jones in the middle and Nick Bolton playing linebacker, running sideline to sideline, like they got some nasty on that team, man. Okay, they're physical. The 49ers, I don't have to explain this one to you. Nick Bosa, nasty, physical dude. Fred Warner, the best linebacker in the NFL, nasty, physical dude, competitive. Dre Greenlaw, same way. Okay, the Lions, they have some nasty, especially down there in them trenches, man. They're nasty, right? These are the best teams in the NFL. They all have this trait of we're nasty and we're coming after you, okay? And we're like every single team has that. And I look at the Colts, I'm like, I don't know if they have it. You know, Dan did his thing yesterday where, you know, he talked about how the Colts just don't talk about being tough at all. And, you know, he's right. They don't. And I think that kind of feeds into this idea of like, I don't think the Colts have any sort of nasty competitiveness. Okay. Like I think that they need that. And I would like to see them get in a fight because that would prove me wrong. Okay. You know, people were talking about the Texans. They had the first training camp fight of the offseason, and they were like, oh, they're in turmoil. No, they just got some competitive dudes who probably didn't like it that they got beat over and over and over again. Okay? So you got to have some nasty. I don't think that the Colts have that right now. You have to have some competitive nasty. The best teams have it. They do. And I don't think that the Colts do. Now, speaking of competitive nasty, Curt Cignetti, head coach of the Indiana Hoosiers football team. He's got some competitive nasty. I like him, man. I really do. Okay, he's arrogant. He thinks he's the man. If you ask Cignetti, say, hey, man, who's the best coach in college football right now? Look, the answer is Kirby Smart. But that's not what Cignetti would say. He'd be like, it's me. I'm the best coach in the NCAA, and you're going to find out. That's just the kind of attitude and arrogance that Curt Cignetti walks around with. And he dropped a gem at Big Ten Media Days yesterday. Just take a listen.
Now, I can tell you, normally at these things, I stand up here and we're picked to win the league. It's just usually how it's been. I have been picked next to last twice, which we're picked 17th out of an 18-team league, and I get it. The 2 times we're picked next to last, in 2022, we won the conference championship. And in 2017, we inherited an 8-45 team and won 8 in a row and played JMU the last game of the year for the conference championship. Now, I'm not into making predictions. That's just a historical fact. Okay? So I know you guys have been waiting for me to say something crazy. That wasn't quite crazy.
That was Indiana head football coach Curt Cignetti. I love it, man. I love it so much. The attitude of like, hey, like I'm here and I'm going to succeed. I love it, man. Like this dude, he's won games, clearly. Okay, you don't move up to coach in the Big Ten unless you've won games previously. And I just love that he wants everyone to know that he's won games. Okay, winning is clearly his standard, which I think is where it starts with any program. Okay, college, NFL, high school, whatever. If your coach doesn't expect for you to win games, then you aren't going to win games. Okay, because if your coach doesn't expect for you to win, then you aren't going to practice very well. Practice will be easier and all those things. And I guarantee you that those IU practices are tough and they're competitive. Because just looking at Cignetti and the way that he talks just about himself and his team and his past, he's tough and he expects to win, which is where it starts with anybody. And, bringing it back to the Indianapolis Colts, like, is this a team that expects to win? I don't know that it is. Just based off of the comments yesterday, and to be fair, I didn't listen to every press conference. I didn't. Okay, that's a lot of stuff to kind of work through. But of the stuff that I did see, and I saw a lot, Deforest Buckner, he was the only one who was willing to stand up there and be like, yeah, I want to win a Super Bowl. He's the only one who did that. They're like, hey, man, what are you chasing? Legacy. I want to win a Super Bowl. That's basically what he said. And they asked Michael Pittman Jr. the same question. I don't know if it was earlier or later in the day. And he was like, respect. I want people to respect me a little bit more. It's like, okay, man. So you don't want to win. It's a very I thing. Okay? Like, it's like, I want to be respected more. Come on, man. How about you win a Super Bowl? I guarantee you, people will respect you a lot more if you do that. Right? And that's the thing that I like about Cignetti, man. Like, the goal down there is clearly to win, and he's a little arrogant. That's probably going to get him in trouble at some point, okay, especially if they have a rough start to the season. But, Dan, he's highlighted it on his show, which runs from noon to 3. Like the schedule's easy. It is. Okay, so they're going to have plenty of opportunity to win games. They're probably going to start off really well this year. I hope they do. I'm ready for the college football season. Okay, it's going to be great. I can't wait. Thanks for tuning in to The Real Jonathan Smith Show. If you want to watch the live stream, head over to YouTube, search for Indies Sports Tickets, join the live stream. You can drop comments and do, all those great, fun, exciting things. Or maybe for whatever reason, maybe you're boycotting YouTube. I don't know. Seems like there's a reason to boycott everything nowadays. We also have a text line, okay, trying to be better at advertising this. We have a text line, 317-228-1430. That is the text line. Shoot us a text, all those fun things. And yeah, especially for Dan's show, right? Because we can't do YouTube for his show. So the text line, great way for you to interact with us and all the different things that we say. And today, we're going to continue to hammer home stuff on Colts training camp. Every time I get on Twitter, I see the same videos and they just annoy me. Okay. I tweeted something out yesterday. There's a video of, it's one play. That's the even more frustrating part of all of it. It's not even a clip of several plays in a row. It's a clip of Leatu Latu, beating Witt off the edge, right? And getting pressure on what looks like Joe Flacco. And I'm sitting here and I'm watching, and people are like, oh, he's a beast. Leatu Latu is going to be so incredibly good. Oh my goodness. He went off the edge one time. This is clearly the next Lawrence Taylor. Obviously. It's no, it's not the way this stuff works, man. We have to keep in mind, like, who are you practicing against? Okay, like that is my holdup with Adonai Mitchell, because when it comes to the Colts and entering into this, offseason and entering training camp, like Anthony Richardson yesterday, and like an 11 on 11 threw like 3 touchdown passes, and people are really excited. I'm nervous. I am. Okay, because that tells me not that Anthony Richardson is great. It tells me that our fears of how bad the back end of this Colts defense is are valid. Okay, like we have to keep that in mind when we're evaluating these guys, right? Because it's not only just how good is this guy, but it's also how good is the guy that he's playing against. Okay, like Adonai Mitchell better have a dominant training camp, because this Colts secondary isn't very good. Okay, Warren Sharp, really smart football guy. He tweeted out yesterday the best secondaries in the NFL. The Colts were ranked 29th, right? And then I quote tweeted, I was like, that feels a bit high, okay? Like, they should probably be lower. Like they legitimately might have the worst secondary in the NFL, all right? It's a lot of young guys at corner. I don't know what they're doing at safety, okay? Zach Hicks came on the show on Tuesday, and we were talking about this, right? And since, Chris Ballard, he's got that cap space left over, we're like, hey, he's going to go out. He's going to sign Justin Simmons, one of the better safeties in the NFL. Okay, when ESPN sent out their survey to GMs, other executives, scouts, and coaches, they ranked Justin Simmons as the 10th best safety in the NFL. Okay, that's a good player. And he's just sitting out there on the market, working out. The dude's like 27 years old, right? So it's not like he's towards the end of his career. Like, he's a guy that you can bring in, give him a contract, he can play here for another 5 years. And then you have him basically through his entire prime, right? He's just sitting out there. He's just waiting for a contract. It's like, hey, Chris Ballard, we need a safety. Sorry, but Nick Cross just isn't going to get it done. I don't mind Justin Blackmon. He's a good player, but you kind of need a second safety. Justin Simmons just sitting out there, had a great year last year for the Broncos, has had multiple great years for the Broncos. He's just waiting on a contract. And so like that is the thing we have to remember with the Colts, and really just with every team heading into training camp. Okay, like we do. Like, if someone sat back and they watched the Chiefs training camp and they saw Patrick Mahomes tear up this Chiefs secondary repeatedly, and their takeaway was, oh, this Chiefs secondary is terrible, like that would probably not be a fair evaluation, considering they played against Patrick Mahomes the entire time. Okay? It's the same thing here in Indy. It's hard to know who's going to be good and who isn't, right? Because the secondary isn't very good. The offensive line, average at best. Seriously. So it's hard to know who's going to be good and who isn't. Okay? Because you have to keep in mind that the player that they're playing against may not be very good. That was my thing with Adonai Mitchell during rookie camp. He's like running slant routes and taking them 80 yards for touchdowns, and people are freaking out. Adonai Mitchell, he's unstoppable. It's like, no, he's just playing against a bunch of undrafted dudes. Okay, like that's actually what's going on here. And that's part of why I'm excited and I'm intrigued to see how Adonai Mitchell looks during actual training camp. Okay, how does he look, playing against real NFL level players, even if they aren't that good? Because this secondary for the Colts is terrible. It's bad. Young, unproven, not a lot of substance there. Okay? Just not a lot of substance when it comes to that Colts secondary. And that's something that we need to keep in mind. Okay? It is. Right, who are these guys playing against? It's like, yes, I know Anthony Richardson looked good yesterday in 11 on 11. He looked good in 7 on 7 and all those things. But, we're not playing against the 49ers defense. We're not. Okay, that's why I'm looking forward to joint practices, especially the one in Cincinnati against the Bengals, because that's a team that expects to win a Super Bowl this year. Okay, like that's what they're expecting. So if Anthony Richardson can go out there and he can look great in those practices against a good Bengals defense, because the Bengals have a good defense, then I will permit people getting excited about Anthony Richardson. Okay. But him tearing up a bad Colts defense yesterday just doesn't do all that much for me. Now, there are high expectations placed before Anthony Richardson, okay, because everybody expects for him to exceed these expectations. And one of those people is Jared Dubin, or Dubbin. I'm not too sure how you pronounce it, of CBS, right? He covers the NFL for CBS Sports. He's going to join me coming up here in about 5 minutes where we're going to talk Anthony Richardson, the Colts, and a whole lot more.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for...
It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hour number 2 getting underway here. Supposed to have Jared Dubin on of CBS Sports. He is not picking up his phone, so we're going to get him on as soon as we can. During the break there, friend of the program, John Buzzard, he asked what I was doing this weekend in the YouTube chat. So head over to YouTube, search for Indy's Sports Tickets, subscribe, join the live stream, and talk to us. Join the chat. Great, friendly people. It's a nice place to be. Sorry, I'm texting Dubin here. And so, Buzzard, great guy, gonna join me next week on Friday for Funless Friday. And he asked what I was doing this weekend. I'm getting a tattoo. Very excited about this. And Gritty, Jennifer, wait, I think Jared might be calling. The Real Jonathan Smith Show. Is this Jared?
Yes, sorry about that.
All good, man. All good. You were on the air. So your last name is pronounced Dubin, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Jared Dubin of CBS Sports covers the NFL, also writes about basketball in his free time at lastnightinbasketball.com. Before we talk Anthony Richardson and the Colts, I do want your opinion really quickly on Team USA for basketball in the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that they're as heavily favored as you would expect Team USA to be in previous years, but obviously it's an incredible collection of talent. And if they play to their capabilities, they should come away with a gold medal. Like, that's what we expect from the American basketball team, and that's kind of what I expect for them going in.
Yeah, that's how I feel as well. I know people are talking a lot about Canada and how good they are. I'm more scared of France, I think, than anyone else, but, I don't know. But anyway, let's move into the NFL because training camp started, and I'm sure this is where your life starts to get really busy. So you and some of your colleagues at CBS wrote an article about quarterback expectations and how and whether or not you guys expect them to perform better than or below their expectations. And you wrote that you thought that Richardson would perform above expectations. I agree with you, but what expectations do you have for Richardson?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just going to lead a very good offense. I think you saw last year and throughout his career that Shane Steichen consistently gets the best out of whatever quarterback he's coaching. He was the quarterback's coach for Justin Herbert's rookie season with the Chargers. He was the offensive coordinator as Jalen Hurts blossomed into a star in Philadelphia. And you saw how Hurts took a step backward last season without Steichen there. And then the Colts last year, obviously, they only had Anthony Richardson for, parts of 4 games. And with Gardner Minshew as the starting quarterback, they were 13th in the league in offensive efficiency. And that's just not the kind of thing that you see from offensive play callers that are not really good at their job. He consistently puts quarterbacks in position to succeed. And with Richardson, he just has a player who is absurdly physically talented. Like, he can make literally every single throw on the field. And then he's the most athletic quarterback in the history of the NFL Combine. Like, the kinds of things that he can do on the field are exceedingly rare. And when you have that combination of skill set and a coach that puts players in position to get the best out of their skill set, I expect that as long as he's on the field, he's going to be good.
That's how I feel about it. But from the snippets that we saw from him last year, because as you said, he was in and out of games, battled some injuries. What did you like from what you saw from him last year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's an incredible rushing threat. And then because of the arm strength that he has, he can really push the ball downfield. And I think that he's more of a natural passer than I think people thought coming into the league. It's not like he's just going out there like running with his head cut off and making plays only with his athleticism. I think he can get through the progressions and get to the open man pretty well. And because of the style of offense, there are going to be open men for him to find. And it's just a matter of being able to get to the right guy quickly enough. And obviously we know, like, if he can't, then he can make something out of nothing too.
Most definitely, joined by Jared Dubin, covers the NFL for CBS. And you brought up just the rushing ability and the athleticism, but you also mentioned the injuries that he's kind of battled throughout his career. How do you think, or how would you kind of balance allowing him to get out and run versus trying to protect him from potentially getting hurt again?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is, he's got to get down, he's got to go out of bounds, or he's got to slide, protect himself a little bit. You don't want to, neuter one of his best characteristics. Like the idea that you're going to tell him, like, just sit in the pocket, don't run, don't take off. We're never going to use you in short yardage situations, things like that. Like, that's taking away one of the best things that he brings.
Hello, you there?
A running quarterback on the smaller end. Like, he's, Josh Allen, Cam Newton size. He should be able to take at least some hits. You just don't want him to take really big hits, and you don't want him to take unnecessary hits. And you have a good running back, so you don't have to use him every time in short yardage. You can use Jonathan Taylor like for the first try on short yardage or the second try on short yardage, and not make it Richardson every single time. And in that way, sort of minimize some of the unnecessary hits that he takes. But I'm not scaling back too much on that. And I'm not scaling back too much on the idea of him scrambling. Like, he's just got to, when he does that, get out of bounds or get down instead of taking a big hit.
That's how I feel about it. Cause like you said, or he even said it yesterday when he was doing his post practice interview, where he said that, his legs are part of what makes him who he is. I'm a big proponent of, like, in the red zone, let's run the ball with Richardson, just because I feel like having a running quarterback in the red zone it's a huge advantage. You get the extra blocker with the running back. And as you mentioned, like, you've got Jonathan Taylor, who they gave a raise this last year, right? With a nice little contract extension. Like, if he's there, like, let's run him between the 20s. But when we get down to the red zone, like, let's really run with Richardson. If that's kind of how they went about it, how would you feel about that?
Yeah, I would feel pretty good about that. And, like, you don't have to say he's going to run it every time in the red zone. Like, you can do some of the read option stuff, and you can do, like, okay, we have first and goal on the 1. We don't have to have Richardson run it in. We can try to give it to Taylor. Like, there are ways that you can just minimize it. Obviously, the threat of him in short yardage and near the goal line is something that is incredibly valuable. And if you can get something like, Richardson pushing from behind or working as a blocker, like, that's really good. I'm just not doing it every time, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense. How do the weapons that Anthony Richardson has, how does that impact the expectations that you have for him in terms of his ability to throw the ball this year?
Yeah, I think it's like a pretty good selection of weapons, but it's still not maybe like the level you would want. Like, I feel like Michael Pittman would be at his best as like a really good number 2 receiver rather than your top guy. Like, he's a good player, but he's not necessarily someone that, completely changes the coverage when he's out there on the field. And, A.D. Mitchell has incredible athleticism, really good speed. I think Josh Downs is underrated. He can make plays down the field. He has really good speed too. And I like the way that he's able to get himself open deep down the field. So there are definitely opportunities for him with those guys on the outside. And then they have a bunch of tight ends that are interesting. Like, Jelani Woods was pretty good a couple of years ago. Will Mallory in, limited opportunities last season fared really well in terms of, like, you look at yards per route run and whatnot among tight ends and among the rookie tight ends, he fared pretty well there. So they've got a bunch of guys with athleticism that you get them the ball in space and they'll be able to make stuff happen. And it's like, it's a pretty good group. It's not the kind like you saw like with Bryce Young last year where it was going to completely undermine the offense. That's not the situation that they're in. It's just not necessarily a group where they are going to elevate him beyond what he's capable of. He's going to sort of have to lift them a little bit because it's an okay but not incredible group, basically.
What do you think about Alec Pierce?
Yeah, I wasn't too high on Pierce coming into the league, and I don't know if we've seen that much in the first couple of years to really change that. But it's another guy that I think can win deep down the field at his best, and with contested catch opportunities at his best. And Richardson can pretty much put the ball wherever you want, so you can give him a chance to sort of make those kind of plays. But I think that Pittman obviously is ahead of him. I think that Downs has performed better than him. And I think ideally, after you take Mitchell in the second round, you would want him to be ahead of Pierce as well, even though I believe he was a second round pick too. But, Mitchell, obviously more recent, and you would hope that he can sort of take that number 2 or number 3 job and sort of run with it.
Joined by Jared Dubin, who covers the NFL for CBS. See, that's how I feel about A.D. Mitchell. I just don't think that you spend an early second-round pick on a guy that you don't think is going to play right away, which will be kind of an interesting development kind of throughout camp, seeing how they balance those reps. But I'm with you when you were talking about Shane Steichen earlier and how he's just helped quarterbacks at every stop. What do you think it is about him that allows him to help kind of elevate these younger quarterbacks that he's had opportunities to coach?
I think he gives them easy answers, like scheming guys open into space. That's the biggest thing that you need to be able to do for quarterbacks, is make the decision-making easy for them. And I think he's able to do a really good job of that. And, obviously I'm not in, practices and games and film room with them, but it certainly seems like he does a really good job of getting across the concepts and getting across what guys need to be able to do within the structure of the offense. And that's something that the teaching aspect and the communication aspect of coaching is really important, and not necessarily something that we see on the field, but helps be able to take advantage of the situation that he puts the players in.
Yeah, you're in New York, correct?
Yeah.
So, look, I think the Jets are fascinating. I think they're the second most interesting team in the league with Aaron Rodgers behind the Bears. What are things going like for them at training camp? I know Rodgers showed up early to hang out with the rookies. Mm-hmm. What are kind of your expectations for them this year?
I haven't been out to Jets camp yet. Going sometime in the next couple of weeks. I'll be out there at Jets and Giants camp. But with me for the Jets, I am a little bit more skeptical than maybe some others, and I was last year as well. Just last year, the offensive line had me really worried, and the group of weaponry beyond Garrett Wilson had me really worried. And then we saw those offensive line concerns come to fruition, in the first 4 plays of the game when Rodgers was running for his life and then tore his Achilles. And now you got upgrades along the offensive line, but Tyron Smith played 13 games last year. I think that was more than he had played in, I believe, the previous 3 years combined. Morgan Moses dealt with some injuries last year. Rodgers is, 40 plus years old, coming off a torn Achilles. Mike Williams coming off yet another injury, a torn ACL this time. Like, they're just counting on a bunch of older, sort of injury-prone guys to stay healthy, to be able to hit the type of offensive ceiling that they need to hit to meet these expectations. And it's just like, am I really betting on like a 5-leg parlay of all of these guys staying healthy and playing at the peak of their powers to meet the expectations that they have for themselves?
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, when you're signing guys, older guys, to 1-year deals, that's usually not a great sign of faith. Especially with guys like, Tyron Smith, as you mentioned, only playing 13 games last year, more than he had in some of his previous years. What are your thoughts on Robert Saleh? Because I think he's one of the coaches in the NFL whose seat's a little hotter than other guys. I don't mind him. I think he's a decently good coach, but what are kind of your thoughts up there, and what are the fans' thoughts? I mean, you're up there, you're in New York, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have strong thoughts one way or the other, because I don't think that the roster that he's had has really put them in position to succeed, specifically on offense. But he's also, saddled himself with Daniel Hackett last year and this year. And I would say a lot of that obviously is because of Aaron Rodgers, and that's who he wanted. But, you can say, like, you don't have to give Aaron Rodgers everything he wants. You don't have to let him essentially be the GM and the head coach at the same time. Like, you can bring in someone who will do a better job of scheming up the offense. But obviously that defense has played really well since he's got there. He showed an ability in San Francisco to get the best out of the defenses when he was there. Like, he clearly knows what he's doing defensively. I think that the offensive roster and decision-making is the kind of thing that leaves you a little bit cold. And it's hard to say how much of that is on him, how much is on the GM, how much is on, the owner sort of deferring to Aaron Rodgers. There's like a lot of blame to go around, and you don't necessarily know where to put it.
Joined by Jared Dubin, who covers the NFL for CBS. Last question, Jared, and then I will let you go. Results-wise for the Colts, like wins and losses, what would be a successful season for the Colts this year?
To me, it's less about wins and losses than about what Richardson looks like. By the end of the year, you want it to be clear that by the end of next season, you're going to be giving that guy a pretty significant contract extension because you know that he's the guy for the future. For me, like, Steichen puts him in position to succeed, and he does everything that is being asked of him, and you can tell that he's going to be the guy for the long term. That's what a successful season for them looks like to me.
If he does look like that, and it's pretty clear that he's the long-term guy, how many wins do you think that is?
Yeah, I think you can get into like the 9-10 win range probably as a ceiling. I don't know if you're getting all that much higher than that, but that probably puts you in position to, potentially compete for a wild card spot. And that's, more than you could ask for, I think.
I completely agree with you. I think 9, 10, maybe 11. If you get a little lucky, you can win that many games. Jared, you were great, man. Thanks for your time.
Hey, thanks for having me. Have a good day.
You too. That is Jared Dubin. He writes for CBS, covers the NFL for them. Also covers basketball on his own. You can follow him on Twitter at Dubin5 on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Colts training camp is in full swing, which means that Anthony Richardson he's our new Caitlin Clark. We're just going to talk about him every single day. And I think you guys are going to be okay with that. I've got some takes on Anthony Richardson when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Often imitated, never duplicated. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
The real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Trucks on. Thanks again to Jared Dubin of CBS Sports coming on, talking Anthony Richardson expectations and all of those fun things. Now, I can talk about Shane Steichen and this huge mistake that he is making. You know, everyone knows, especially if you just listen to that interview, Jared Dubin highlighted it very well. Anthony Richardson is one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the NFL. Okay. He was, he tested better than any quarterback in the history of the NFL Combine. Okay. Like, the dude is dynamic. He's an absolute rocket. Okay. People have raved about this athletic prowess all offseason and all during the NFL draft prospect before he even became a Colt. He's fast. He's got a big arm and all the other things that we want. Okay. He's the second best athlete at the quarterback position in the NFL. Okay. I would say that he falls behind Lamar Jackson. That's high praise, right? That Anthony Richardson deserves, because if you've seen him, then you know that he is an insane athlete. Now, it's nice having athletic quarterbacks. It is. Okay. Like, back in the day, growing up, I remember watching Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. The rush got home, man, you were done. It was over. The play was over. But in recent years, the NFL has pivoted to these more athletic quarterbacks that can escape pressure and scramble if they need to. Okay, it seems like every quarterback in the NFL now is at least somewhat athletic, right? And that's, the positive side of having athletic quarterbacks. They can extend plays and, they can kind of give you this wow factor that guys like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady weren't always capable of doing. The negative side, though, is that these more athletic quarterbacks can escape pressure and scramble if they need to. That is a downside. It's like, Jonathan, you just said that was the positive side. It's like, no, because it leads to players like Anthony Richardson getting hurt, right? And then that leads to Joe Flacco taking snaps at quarterback, which isn't cool. Okay, like, I don't mind Joe Flacco. He's fine. He's better than Sam Ehlinger. But if he's the starter for the Colts the majority of the year, then the Colts aren't going to win very many games. They aren't. Okay. And I think that one of the more difficult parts of being a play caller now in the modern NFL is finding this very important balance of, when do I run my athletic quarterback and when do I protect them? Okay. And I thought I was wrong. I thought this was something that Shane Steichen was going to put a lot of thought into in the offseason. And based off this clip right here, it's pretty clear that he didn't.
Well, I think it's exciting because the playbook is open to everything. You got a quarterback that can do everything. He can throw from the pocket. He can get out of the pocket. He can run the football. And then you got Jonathan Taylor, who's one of the best backs in the league. And to have both those guys in the backfield is going to be critical for our success. People ask this too a lot. It's just like, hey, how are you going to limit the run game? And I kind of think like, shoot, are you going to limit Steph Curry from, shooting 3-pointers? Well, that's one of Anthony's strengths, right? So we're not going to, get away from that. That's what he does well. So
that was Shane Steichen talking about Anthony Richardson's ability to run and how it's important in all these things. And I got to be honest, comparing Anthony Richardson's running ability to Stephen Curry's shooting ability, it's a bit rich for me. It just is. Okay, I don't think that Anthony Richardson is ever going to hands down be the best running quarterback we've ever seen, like how Steph Curry's hands down the best shooter we've ever seen. Okay, don't think that's going to happen. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, that's possible, but I doubt it. Either way, though, this crazy shooting ability that Steph Curry has isn't going to potentially ruin his career the way that Anthony Richardson's running ability could. Okay, because seriously, at some point, if Anthony Richardson continues to run and he continues to get hurt, guess what? At some point, teams are going to be like, you know what? You get hurt too much. We'll see you later. Okay? And the alarming part about all of this discussion about running and these guys' ability to do that, the alarming part is that Anthony Richardson agrees with Shane Steichen.
My leg's always been one of my superpowers, so trying to take that away from me, I don't think that's a good thing for this offense, It's just more so me, you know, playing a little bit more smarter, learning how to take care of myself and my teammates, and you know, and knowing when to make the right play and knowing when to, you know, try to get an extra few yards. So, you know, don't take my legs away, but you know, just be more smart.
That was Anthony Richardson talking about how his legs are his superpower and he should be allowed to run because that's important for him. That's such an interesting term. You know, he calls his ability to run his superpower. You know, I'm a big superhero guy. I like Marvel. I'm excited to go see the new Deadpool and Wolverine movie. Can't wait. It's gonna be fun. Watched a lot of the, you know, Marvel Avengers stuff. Big Batman guy as well. Love superheroes. Something I've noticed with superheroes, most of them have powers that make them better. They do. Not our quarterback here in Indianapolis. Okay, Anthony Richardson's superpower is something that makes him a liability health-wise. Now, I'm going to continue to echo the same thoughts I've had on Anthony Richardson all offseason. Okay? He should only run via a designed run in the red zone. Okay? That's where having a quarterback with the ability to run is a real advantage. Okay? You have an extra blocker with, you know, the running back, you know, that usually gives you a numbers advantage, which is, you know, that's obviously what you want. Like if I have more blockers than you have tacklers, play's probably going to be successful. Okay? Which is nice when you're trying to run the ball in from, you know, 5, 7, 8 yards out, whatever it is. Between the 20s, though, Chris Ballard just forked out, you know, a new contract for Jonathan Taylor last year. Like, can we, like, let's let him earn that. Okay? All right, so between the 20s, let Jonathan Taylor run it and let Anthony Richardson use his arm, because that's what quarterbacks that stick around in the league for a long time do. Okay, they win games and they move the football down the field with their arm, not their legs. When we look at Lamar Jackson, the reason why he's still in the league, the reason why he's one of the 4 best quarterbacks in the NFL is because he relies on his arm more than he does his legs. Okay, like that's why everyone thought that the Ravens had a chance at beating the Chiefs last year. It's like Lamar Jackson, this dude's a stud. He's throwing the ball all over the field. He's not just running a whole bunch. And that's what we need to see from Anthony Richardson. We need to see that development of, okay, this guy can win games and move us down the field with his arms, right? Not his legs. Now, obviously, from time to time, there are going to be moments where Anthony Richardson has to put on the cape, escape the pocket, and potentially scramble for a first down. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay, if he needs to do that at any point on the field, then like he should undoubtedly do that. But maybe don't, you know, run a quarterback power on your own 35-yard line. Okay, maybe wait till you're in the red zone to do something like that. And if you're pushing back and you're like, no, he should run a whole bunch, just look at the CVS receipt of injuries from Anthony Richardson's entire career. Okay, they're like that CVS receipt of injuries is reason enough for him to not run unless he needs to. Hey, in the red zone, he'll be able to elevate the offense with his running, so he should. Between the 20s, though, there's no need for any design quarterback runs. You've got Jonathan Taylor. You clearly think that he's good based off of what Chris Ballard said about him yesterday and about how he's going to have a big year. Okay, and you also paid him a bunch of money. Okay, so he better be good. Like let's give him the ball. Just maybe an idea here, and let Anthony Richardson air it out with his arm. Now, I just had Jared Dublin on of CBS Sports. You know, great guy. It seems like his colleague Will Brinson, also of CBS Sports, perfectly described Anthony Richardson. And you know, there's been a lot of conversation around Anthony Richardson this offseason. Some people are projecting a leap. Other people expect him to exceed expectations. Right? One of those people is Jared Dublin, who just, you know, joined the show. Check out the podcast after if you didn't get to hear that interview. But, you know, a lot of the sports media has overhyped Anthony Richardson. There's a lot of buzz around this guy. So it was just such a nice breath of fresh air when I came across an article by Will Brinson perfectly describing Anthony Richardson. Now, Brinson was doing something that, you know, a lot of these outlets do. You know, he's taking quarterbacks and organizing them into these different tiers. right? He had Anthony Richardson in his fourth tier that was labeled, quote, intrigue with a question mark, end quote. That's the perfect description of Anthony Richardson. It's so good. That's so perfect. Because whenever you hear people talk about the potential leap that Anthony Richardson's going to make, it's all about the intrigue. They never bring up the questions, right? Because there is a lot of upside with Anthony Richardson. I think everyone sees that. And that's why there's such an emphasis on the tools that he has, right? And he has plenty of tools, right? Size, arm, speed, athleticism, everything. He has everything NFL teams want in a quarterback now. The thing is, there is such an emphasis on these tools because there's no substance to point to. Okay, notice when people talk about CJ Stroud, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, they don't mention the tools, even though all of them have a pretty nice bag of tools in their arsenal. They talk about what they've actually done. Okay, like there is substance to back up the tools that they have. There aren't very many or really any question marks whatsoever because we've seen them perform and show that they know how to use the tools that they have. Okay, when people talk about Josh Allen, they don't talk about how athletic he is. They don't talk about how big of an arm he has. They don't. And if they do, they mention it in passing. It's not a predominant point in their argument. Okay, their predominant point is this is a guy who's been to multiple AFC championship games. If the guy could just figure out a way to beat Patrick Mahomes, then he may have a couple rings by now. Okay, when they talk about CJ Stroud, it's like, hey, rookie quarterback last year won his division, right? They point to specific things with these guys. When it comes to Anthony Richardson, though, there's nothing there. There's no legit substance to point to. Okay, now the tools clearly there. Okay, but there are a ton of question marks. Can Anthony Richardson stay healthy? Can he be more accurate? Can he consistently read a defense? Does he know when to slide? Does he know how to slide? Okay, the list continues on. There are a lot of question marks surrounding Anthony Richardson, but there's also a lot of intrigue with the tools that he possesses. Okay, Anthony Richardson is the definition of intriguing with a question mark. Coming up here in about 4 minutes, my guy Zach Gray is going to join me as he does every Friday at this time. Can't wait to have him on. We're going to talk gambling. We're going to talk football. And if you're in the YouTube chat, then you know why I'm bringing this up. I got to ask him about my tattoo because I'm getting one tomorrow. I'm excited. YouTube chat doesn't want me to do it, but we'll see if Zach Gray can convince me to change my mind. That's all coming your way here in about 4 minutes.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? The real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket, and it's 11:40 on a Friday. So you know what that means. My guy, Zach Gray at ZG, the Grapevine professional sports gambler, joins me. ZG, what's going on, my man?
Jay Smith, it's a beautiful Friday.
Dude, it really is. My wife is gone tonight, so you know exactly what that means.
Oh, I already know, bro.
How many seasons have you played so far for college football 25?
So I'm starting my third season. I finished my second season yesterday. I'm going really, really in depth. As you know, your consistent listeners know, as you know, I'm a spreadsheet documents guy. So I have a whole, I have made a Southern Miss College Football 25 media guide that has past national champions, Heisman winners, all conference. So I've gone really, really hard. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it so far.
That's incredible. So I did,
and I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you so you can take a look at just how in depth it's color coded. It has notables on there. It has draft picks. It's a lot.
Yes, that's incredible. So to start the game, my dad and I, we each took an offense that we thought we might want to run. And we went through, we went into practice mode, and we both ran every play in each playbook. And we wrote down and color-coded the ones that we liked and didn't like. And then we swapped. And then we both made our own playbooks from what the other guy wrote down.
That's incredible.
It really is.
That's a great idea.
It really is. It's pretty great. I made my first team builder team yesterday. I'm so pumped.
That's so fun.
It's Batman themed.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love that.
But this I should have led with this. Golly, Jonathan. I made $50 this morning. I walked in today. My boss basically told me that the Florida Gators were going to win 10 games this year, and I was like, I'll bet you $50 that does not happen.
Dan Dockage said that?
No, not Dan. Mike, my actual boss.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So I was like, let me take advantage of that. So, but
what? Hold on. I don't think I processed that at first. We think that team with that schedule is winning 10 games. I'm sorry, Mike.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, here's what's gonna happen. I was like, you guys are gonna lose to Miami week 1, and I'm gonna give you an opportunity to take the bet back. Okay. Yeah, he said it. I was like, this is free money, which I don't turn down. So speaking of teams winning games, how's the algorithm coming along? College football, not that far away. NFL, not that far away either.
Yeah, still looking. Think we should be wrapping up everything this weekend and good to go for that August 1 release like I wanted to get done. There's always a chance that, I do the final test and, I find something that I don't like and I tweak it and it gets pushed back maybe a week, but it'll be here in plenty of time for you to get your week 1 bets in, and the college football, and plenty of time for you to kind of get your bearings for the NFL season too. So we're almost done. It took a lot of work. Shout out to Phil Steele. He has that college football magazine that he releases every year. And just going through it and just getting smarter, learning, more in depth about rosters and trends and things like that. So if you guys haven't seen that Phil Steele magazine, it's in crazy detail, so much data, you can hardly stand it. So, free plug.
Okay. That's awesome. And you can find Zach's picks, head over to Twitter, X, whatever it's called now. Just go to his Twitter at ZG the Grapevine, click on his Patreon, which is in his bio, and then make a whole bunch of money because Zach, you're really good at what you do, man.
I appreciate that.
Dude, you know it. Okay. So now I'm going to transition to something because you're my friend, right? Like a lot of the people that I have on the show, I would not consider my friend. I would just consider them smart sports people. So I would never ask them for advice. Okay. So
are you throwing shade a little bit with that?
What do you mean?
I'm your friend, but I'm not. They're all smart sports guys. I'm just
I'm sorry. That's
friend.
not what I meant. That's not what I meant. You know I wouldn't have you on if you weren't a smart sports guy. Come on now. Come on, man. I didn't mean for it to sound that way. I'm sorry. You are a smart sports guy. You are. Okay. The only bad take I've ever heard you have was that Andy Dalton was a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. It's the only bad take I've ever heard you give.
Yeah, the adrenaline got to me. I was itching. I was itching for some controversy, and I got it.
Oh yeah, from everybody. But anyway, so I'm getting a tattoo tomorrow. It's my first one. I'm excited about this. I revealed it to my audience and the people watching on YouTube. Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to subscribe and join the chat and all those things. They're like, don't do it. It's a Chris Ballard decision, which is not a good thing here in Indianapolis. What are your thoughts on tattoos? And do you see me as a tattoo guy?
Yeah, so I don't have any tattoos, but like I have no qualms about tattoos. I just never have seen something or felt the urge to get one, but I think they're pretty cool on everyone else except you. I cannot see you tatted.
Oh man, that's brutal. Really?
Well, I just had to throw. I can see you tatted. I just had to throw a shot back for you calling me a dumb sports fan just a minute ago.
Fair enough. So I'm getting it on my left tricep. Is that a good call or no?
Yeah. So we're talking behind, right?
Yes. Easy to cover.
Yeah,
if I need
like
to.
that spot. I like that spot, and I do like the chest. Those. If I ever got a tattoo, those would be the two places.
I feel like chest pieces would really hurt, just because like there's just a lot of bone there, except for me, because the max bench is 245. So just throwing that out there as well. I know. It's incredible. I like shocked myself when I did that last weekend. Joined by my guy Zach Gray. Follow him on Twitter at ZG the Grapevine, where you get nothing but winning bets. Okay, so people are asking me, so I feel like I have to answer the question. The tattoo I'm getting, it's an arrow, like running through a compass, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it looks sick.
Is there any meaning behind it?
There is. So that was my wife's rule. That's what Amelia said. She was like, Jonathan, you can get a tattoo. That's fine, but you better think about it for a long time, and it better mean something. And it does.
Yeah.
So the arrow symbolizes two things for me. The first thing is that my name's Jonathan, named after Jonathan in the Bible, and the famous part of his story is where he shoots the arrow over David to let him know to run away. So that's part of what the arrow's for. The compass is to remind me that I'm directionally challenged. Like whenever Amelia and I get in the car, and if I'm driving somewhere and we don't know where we're going, she'll be like, Jonathan, go north. And I'm like, Amelia, we've been married for almost a year. That means absolutely nothing to me. Just tell me if I'm going left or right. And then the arrow running through it reminds me of Proverbs 6:9, where it talks about how the Lord will make your path straight. So I like it. That's really all that matters.
Yeah, I like that. That's well thought out. That's what it's supposed to be right there, in my opinion. So I'm all for it.
Thank you. See, this is why you're my friend, man. You support me, which is great.
Through thick and thin.
So I want to transition now to Big Ten Media Days, which are going on. Did you see the UCLA coach?
Yeah, what was that?
I know. Could you imagine?
So I don't take too much stock. I mean, it was terrible first and foremost, but we've seen the two images that come to my head when we start talking about this is Nick Sirianni and Adam Gase.
Yep.
And we've seen bad introductory press conferences before, but and all they are is just it's just pretty much a pep rally. It doesn't mean anything, but still, you would think that you would at least have words to say, and you would mess up and say the wrong thing, not just not say anything almost.
Did you know that UCLA was in Los Angeles?
I had a hunch. I had a feeling.
Dude, when he said that, I was just like, geez. Like, how do you come that unprepared?
Right. That's
Like,
what I'm saying. Like, say the wrong thing, but sound smart saying it. Don't say like literally just anything that comes to your head.
that's exactly how I feel. Like, I would rather you Curt Cignetti it. I don't know if you saw what he said over the weekend.
Yeah.
But, oh my gosh.
I love that.
Dude, he's so arrogant. I love it. What are your, like, look, let's be honest. IU's probably going to win like maybe 7-8 games this year, even though their schedule's pretty easy. What are your thoughts on Cignetti?
I think he's a great fit for Indiana. I think he's good for the Big Ten. I think he's a really good coach. And I think that his hire at Indiana kind of raises the Big Ten's floor, you know, as if it needed it. But I think it just adds another competitive team, you know, outside of the ones we think about off the top of our heads. So depth is good. I could see them being a playoff team here within the next 5 years if things shake out.
Really?
But yeah, he's a really good coach. He's going to have that team, you know, humming. That team's going to be really good and a really tough team to beat going forward as head coach. I believe in him. I'm not saying they're going to win 11 games every year, but I could see a Michigan State type of program where every now and then they'll jump up and, you know, be a 12-win team, be a top-ranked team. But always kind of stay within that 8, 9, 10 range in the Big Ten, even with the big dogs that are in it. I'm really high on him in Indiana.
I'm excited, joined by my guy, Zach Gray, professional sports gambler. You can get his Patreon and his picks in his bio on his Twitter at ZG the Grapevine. I'm excited about him. I think to turn a program around, because that's what he's trying to do. I think you have to have some arrogance. Like, you have to have this. Like, I think that if you ask Cignetti who is the best coach in college football, he would say it's himself. And I think that you need that when you're trying to turn a program around.
Yeah, I think I literally think he's the new Mark D'Antoni of the Big Ten. Like that's who
good.
I think the comp is.
I like that. That's a really good comp. That's impressively good. That's why I have you on. You know, you may not know everything about sports, but but you say things like that, which are really smart. So I'm excited about them. Here's, you know, I was running through it this morning. I didn't take a great amount of time to really look into it, but I think there are more teams in the Big Ten this year capable of winning the title than there are in the SEC, which feels like it's the first time I felt that way in a long time. Do you kind of agree with that idea?
Wow, that's a good question. I mean, I only think there's 2 teams in the Big Ten that can win a title.
I've got Oregon, Ohio State, and Michigan. Those are kind of those are the 3 for me. Who are the 2 that you had?
Oregon and Ohio State. I don't think anyone else in the Big Ten, you know, even makes the Final Four.
Really? I mean, it's hard for me to just kind of remove Michigan after how successful they were last year. I know it's a new head coach. I know it's a new quarterback, but like when you have the crown,
it's a lot of new everything. It's a lot of new everything.
It is. We're going to find out if this guy can coach really quickly, which I think he can.
Yeah,
but
I mean, Jesse Minter at the defensive coordinator is no longer there. Like they got a lot of things to figure out. And how many times do we just see, you know, all of this turnover and new stuff, and then they just kind of repeat the same thing over and over again, unless your name's Nick Saban. Like we don't really see it.
It's true. That's a great point. And I don't know. The thing is, because of the way that this is structured now, if they lose 2 games and they figure it out week 12, like they're going to be in the playoff and have a chance to win it.
Yes, but I do think the SEC's got, you know, Texas. I'm still putting Alabama in that conversation. Georgia, you know, those 3 right there. You
Florida,
know,
apparently,
from the Big Ten. Yeah, Florida apparently. But I still believe in Alabama. Obviously Georgia. I believe in Texas. So like, I think the SEC is just a hair better. Like, I think that's pretty much general consensus, but I think they have more teams that can win a title.
Okay. Last question, and I'll let you go. Between the newcomers in the SEC and the Big Ten, who do you think has the most successful year? Like, do Oklahoma and Texas have an easier time transitioning to the SEC, or do Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA have an easier time transitioning to the Big Ten?
Man, that's a really good question because there's a lot of, I don't know. I think Oregon's going to be the best team of all those teams that switch conferences, but I think Texas and Oklahoma are going to be better in the aggregate generally, because I don't think UCLA is going to be good. USC is not going to be anything special. I think Washington's down, but so yeah, that's my cop-out answer.
Okay. Real last thing here, because I thought your answer was going to be longer. USC, man, I like Lincoln Riley. He won a lot at Oklahoma. How long do you think it's going to take him to turn things around at USC? Because I don't know about you, but I was kind of expecting that this would be the year that they really compete for a playoff spot. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. How long do you think it's going to take them?
Yeah, I think it's going to take them at least this year, and then maybe two years after that. I think the whole defensive coordinator debacle, the defense debacle, was just poorly, just a poor hire. It set them back. So, like, to me, I know this isn't the case, but I think we're sleeping on Lincoln Riley a little bit. And I also think that now that we've moved on from that disastrous defense and that disastrous coordinator, now they can kind of settle in, and he can kind of settle in as head coach. Like, it's almost like he's starting again already.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. The idea that we're sleeping on Lincoln Riley, a guy who won the Big 12 multiple times and appeared in multiple, college football playoffs, is nuts to me. But I feel exactly the way that you do, ZG.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, I mean, he's proved it over and over again that he's in the mix. And, I bet at the end of his career, wherever he ends up at the end, I bet that little stretch to start at USC with the defense that was terrible, having a guy like Caleb Williams, I think he's going to look back on that and be like, what in the heck was I doing with that? And then, but I think he'll have a successful career at USC, and I think they'll be in the mix for many years to come after they get this thing ironed out.
I'm completely with you, ZG. I'm out of time. Thanks for your time as always. You're truly the best, man.
Thanks, Jay Smith.
See ya. That was Zach Gray. Follow him on Twitter at ZG the Grapevine. Check out his Patreon where he posts his picks. You can find that in his Twitter bio. Thanks for tuning into The Real Jonathan Smith Show. I'll be back again next week, 10 to noon, with some new ink on my arm. I'll talk to you guys next week.